Hello, Mrs. Newmeyer back here again for our Great Artist Unit. Now our next artist we're going to be learning about and painting a picture similar to what their pictures look like is Georgia O'Keeffe. Now she was a painter that was inspired by nature. She did start out painting as a young child, but rather than being influenced by what the other people around her were doing, she was influenced by nature and really wanted to get up and close with nature, especially flowers. So she was famous for these big floral pieces that would get really close up, where you could just be almost inside the flower, instead of it being, a flower sitting in a nice vase from far away that they were used to seeing like a still life. She just decided to get up and close to those flowers and just really show the detail of what those flowers looked like inside and out. And they would be almost bursting off the page. See, she doesn't even have any white space here along the sides. This is the edge of the painting here, even though my paper continues on. And those petals would just reach right over to the edge of her paper, which was really cool and really neat and a distinctive thing for her time period. She lived in between, she was born in 1887, and then she lived until 1986, so rather recently. So she's one of our modern artists that we're studying this cycle in cycle 3. And she had also some other sorts of paintings like this with the Southwest inspiration from nature, flowers, skulls in the desert, and those sorts of things. So it's really fun to study her and her paintings and to try to replicate one today. So we're going to be working with this poppy that we were looking at earlier, and I'm going to be drawing it on my paper. Another option for you, if you don't want to take the time to draw it and you just want to work with the flower and the painting, is to print this out on a piece of paper or cardstock, preferably, because we're going to be using watercolors. If you don't have watercolors available, you could use other paints as well. I'm going to be demonstrating it with watercolors today, though. So those are your two options. Either draw this or photocopy this onto a piece of cardstock, and maybe for younger students that would work a little bit better. All right, but if you want to draw along with me, you can get out your blank piece of cardstock, and I've got a Sharpie here because that will give us our nice bold lines that we'll be able to paint around. I'm going to take the cap off my pen here. All right, I'm going to start off now. Remember, we want it to be big and bold, so we're going to want to take up this entire piece of paper. So like I showed you where we had it here, we're going to want it to take up the entire sheet. So we're going to start off with a big kind of bowl shape that's going to take us from one edge to another, like this. Not all the way to the edge because we have more petals to draw. Then we're going to go like this and make some wavy lines and go down. That's one petal. On the other side, we're going to be drawing the other petal. So you can just kind of go and just do some wavy lines like that. Next, we're going to do a curved shape in the center. So this gets us started with our flower shape. Now that we have that, we're going to be taking our lines here. Now this is where you are going to go to the edge of the paper. This is going to be, we're imagining it's falling, shooting off the page here, and then back down and around like this. So this is a big petal here. And then the next one's going to go up, touch the edge, and then we're going to come back down and meet that right there. So that's almost like the flowers here. This is the inside of the petal. This is the outside of the petal. This is the outside of this one and the inside there. This is the inside of the flower. And we're going to take another shape where we're going to be drawing a petal here close up. Now if I'm going too fast, you can always pause. But I want to keep going so that you can follow along at your own pace. You're going to have that one going off, and then this one kind of going down like this. Okay. And then we're going to wrap this one around, so we're going to see kind of the underside of it. And then it's going to go here and then off the page there. And then we're going to meet that up here with kind of a curvy line up there at the top. And then over here, we'll have a curvy line over here that shows that this petal is coming up and around here. And we're going to bring the bottom part here up into there. Okay, so that is going to be the basic outline of our flower. I think we just need a little bit of a stem here. How about that? And I'm going to do the inside here. So it shows the inside of our flower. So this is kind of like a petal, another petal up off this way, and then this inside the poppy has this amoeba-like shape. Okay, so there we have it. So we're kind of similar to what we've got there. All right, good. Let's get started. Oh, before we start, there's something I also added here. So when we have poppy flowers, it's a little bit, has these little hairs sticking up here on this part of the flower. Let's do that before we start painting. Okay, good. Next, we're going to get our watercolor paint so we can get ready. Okay, I've got my watercolor paints here. This is what mine look like. We're going to be using these warm colors. And so when I say warm colors, I'm talking about the colors that we usually associate with things like fire and warmth. And so there's the yellows and the oranges and the reds. And just as a side note, if we were talking about cool colors, it would be more these blues and greens are the cool colors that we think of when we do more a snowy, colder type of painting. Like we did when our Grandma Moses painting, we used those sorts of colors, didn't we? All right, but we're going to be using our warm colors here. You can mix them together and as we go along, and you'll see. Now we're going to look back at our original from Georgia O'Keeffe here. So see how she did lighter colors here and darker, bolder colors as you move forward. We're going to try to do that too. All right, so when we do it back here, let's use some lighter oranges, and as we move forward, use some of the darker oranges to reds. All right, so I'm going to start off in that background part that I just showed you with an orange color. Let me get my paints open here. Wow, they're stuck. There we go. All right. All right, so I've got a little bit of water, and I've got a brush. This is the type of brush I'm using. Most any brush will work, but I got a flat one thinking that might be nice. And add some paint, some water to your paints to get them activated and going. Like I said, you can always mix as we go along too if you don't like exactly how the color turns out as you paint. All right, let's see how this color looks. All right, ooh, I like that. All right, so we're gonna color, we're gonna paint. You don't have to worry about being too precise because in watercolors, the water helps you like have the paint flow across. And I'm gonna kind of stick in there. It's nice to have the lines to follow so that we kind of know where one petal ends and the next one starts. But what I'd like to do is add some darker red to it. So when you do watercolors, it's easy to mix, and you can just kind of do this. Now don't use too much water. That's one thing with watercolors. You don't want it to get to be a big soupy paint bath here on your paper. You want enough that it mixes, but not so much that it's going to drip. Like, see how I'm even painting up in the air? I know when you're painting, you're probably going to be on the table. But notice that even if I do it up in the air like this, it's not dripping because I don't have that much water on my brush. Just enough so that the paint flows nicely. Okay, so add some color there. I might even add a little bit of the yellow to it just for some enhancement here, just to add some brightness. Because I really like it when there's multiple tones of a color, where there's like lighter, darker, and spread that on there. Now I'm going to go a little bit darker here with this next one because this is getting closer. I'm going to move that. That keeps making a little bit of noise. As we get closer, we're going to want it to be darker. So I've got a darker orange now moving down into this petal. And we can spread that around Look at that. Yep, and see, I went over the line. That's okay. Don't worry. Watercolor is very forgiving, and sometimes it actually even looks pretty if you go over the lines. It looks nice that even if you do that, because you can blend it, and this is the type of painting where we're using similar colors, so to blend it and to have it overlap a little bit is okay, because look, now when I get to this area, the part where I went over is fine. And see, I'm going to even do it here. In this part, we're going to actually do that darker, but I just blended it there for now. Okay, so I'm going to do this one a little bit lighter orange as well. Kind of mix my oranges and reds together. Okay, I'll do that. Now, as we get to the bottom part here, I'm going to get darker and darker. So I got more red here than I had before. The one thing you don't want to do is mix too many different colors together, because then you'll end up with a muddy brown. Don't want that. We want this to be a nice bright flower. But you can be creative if you want to have different colors. Just stay in the same color family. That means if they're next to each other on the color wheel, like orange and yellows and reds, feel free to mix those around because they're not going to make a muddiness. But if you start adding some blues to it, yeah, you're going to get brown because that's across the color wheel. All right, so I've got that going there. And see, it's nice when the colors kind of mix together and you get kind of that watercolor look. Oop, I see it's kind of running there. So let's fix that a little bit, make it a little bit darker. Okay. Watercolors have that nice look where, ooh, this ran a little bit, but that's okay because I can smooth it around. Okay, so it's starting to look good. We're going to add some darker colors here, and we're going to get darker over here as well, as we saw in our original painting. Let me hold that up. And go ahead and fill the whole page with our colors. Okay, when you have it all painted like this, we're going to work on the inside. So the inside of the flower is dark. Looks like hers is black. So I'm going to get some black there. Get my water going, and we're going to fill in this black. Oop, I got it really dark, didn't I? So I can't even see my little inside part. But if I add a little bit of water, it spreads it around nicely. Because I like to see that part. So I'm going to do mine a little bit lighter, just so I can see that part also, like that. There we go. So we have our Georgia O'Keeffe flower coming off the page, bursting the sides of the paper. Now, feel free to study your own flowers and look and see them up close. Look what they look like and see if you want to do some more paintings like Georgia O'Keeffe. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.